Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 12.1A. I've entitled this video, The Corrupt Bargain, the Election of 1824. This video is going to cover pages 324 to 325. New parties emerge. From 1816 to 1824, the United States had only one major political party. This was the Democratic-Republican Party. The party was far from united. In 1824, four Democratic-Republican candidates competed for the presidency. Party leaders chose William H. Crawford, a former senator from Georgia, to be their candidate. Three other candidates were favorite sons, that is, they received backing from their home states rather than the national party. Their views reflected the interest of their regions. Two favorite sons, Andrew Jackson and Henry Clay, were from the West. Clay, of Kentucky, was Speaker of the House of Representatives. Jackson, of Tennessee, was a hero of the War of 1812. Raised in poverty, he claimed to speak for Americans who had been left out of politics. The third favorite son, John Quincy Adams of Massachusetts, was the son of former President John Adams. He was popular with merchants of the Northeast. Question number 1. What was the only political party in America from 1816 to 1824? The Democratic-Republican Party. Question 2. What state was William H. Crawford from? He was from Georgia, so as you can guess, being from a southern state, he's going to be very pro-slavery in his views. Question 3. What does the term favorite sons mean? That means that a person back then running for president would be backed by the home states rather than the national party. So the state would sort of favor that political candidate for office. Question number 4. What two candidates represented the West at that time? You had Henry Clay and you had Andrew Jackson. Question 5. What state was Henry Clay from, and what important position did he have in government? Henry Clay was from Kentucky, and he was the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Question 6. What state was Andrew Jackson from, and how had he made a name for himself at that time? Well, he was from Tennessee, and he was a war hero of 1812 and a speaker for the common man, as he would claim. He came from poverty, and he rose up with that American dream to become something, and he felt like, I represent the average person, where these other people have come from wealthy families. They don't know what it's like. Question 7. What state was John Quincy Adams from, and why was he famous at that time? John Quincy Adams came from the northern state of Massachusetts, and he was famous for a couple of reasons. One, he was the son of former President John Adams, and also he had been a very important, influential person as Secretary of State under James Monroe. The House chooses the president. In the election, Jackson received a plurality of the popular vote, the largest share. No candidate received a majority or more than half of the electoral votes. The Constitution requires that the House of Representatives select the president when no candidate has won a majority of the electoral votes. Question number 8. What does the word plurality mean? Plurality means you get the largest share, but it's not a majority. So you might get 45% of the vote, but that's not a majority. It's not over half, but it is the biggest number. And that's exactly what happened to Andrew Jackson. He got a plurality of the electoral votes, but not a majority. Question 9. What does the word majority mean? It means more than half. Question number 10. According to the Constitution, who selects the President of the United States if no candidate receives a majority of the electoral votes? The House of Representatives. And here we see a map of the election of 1824. This is the same map we've been using in our election of 1824 we've been reenacting. And as you can see, it was very divided along sectional lines. Adams got a lot of his electoral votes in the Northeast. Jackson got a lot of his votes in the West, but you can see he did pretty well here too. And then Crawford got more of the votes in the southern states, and then Clay was definitely a western candidate, home state of Kentucky, and then the adjoining states of Missouri and Ohio. As the House prepared to vote, Clay met with Adams. Clay agreed to use his influence as Speaker to defeat Jackson, who he didn't personally think should be president. With Clay's help, the House chose Adams for president. Adams quickly named Clay to be Secretary of State. In the past, this office had been the stepping stone to the presidency. Jackson's followers accused the two men of making a, quote, corrupt bargain and stealing the election. Question number 11. How did Henry Clay use his power to help him get John Quincy Adams selected as the 6th President of the United States? Well, since he was the Speaker of the House of Representatives, he had a lot of sway and power in the House of Representatives, and so he met with Adams and said, look, we cannot let Andrew Jackson become president. I don't trust the man, so I'm going to put my power behind you. And as we can see on the next question, 12, once Adams became president, who did he name as his Secretary of State? He named Henry Clay. And back then, if you wanted to be president of the United States, a training role for that would be Secretary of State. And so a lot of people are like, that seems a little shady, a little sus. Question number 13. What accusation did Andrew Jackson make towards Adams and Clay? That this was a corrupt bargain, that they had stolen the election. These rich elites had taken it once again from the common people. Adams as president. Adams and Clay denied any wrongdoing. No one ever uncovered any evidence of a bargain. Still, the charge cast a shadow over Adams's presidency. In his first message to Congress, Adams announced his plans. In addition to improving roads and waterways, he wanted to build a national university and support scientific research. Adams' proposals upset his opponents. They wanted a more limited role for the federal government. It would be wrong, they believed, for government to spend money on such projects. Congress finally approved funds for improving rivers, harbors, and roads, but this was far less than Adams wanted. Question number 14. What were 4 things President Adams wanted Congress to spend money on? He wanted them to spend money on improving roads and improving waterways, so once again improving our infrastructure. But then he had bold goals for the country. He wanted a third thing for them to spend it on, a national university to improve our education. And then fourth, he wanted to improve our scientific research. He even had a bold idea back then to make astronomy sites so that we could gaze into the stars. Question 15. Why did President John Quincy Adams not get everything he wanted Congress to do? Well, because many of his opponents thought that this was too much spending by the government. They wanted a more limited role for the government. They didn't want to see the government spend that much money on these programs that they thought were a little outlandish. I can't imagine what they would think of NASA today. But he did get some things approved, getting money spent on rivers, harbors, and roads. So some infrastructure was paid for by Congress, but not some of the more bold programs that he had. Well, thank you so much for watching. Instead of a meme today, it's time to say goodbye to our 5th President of the United States, James Monroe. And so we say goodbye to James Monroe, and in all the historical rankings of presidents, he comes in at 12th, which is not too shabby at all. That puts him in about the first, top 25 to 30% of our presidents. So thank you, James Monroe, for your 2 terms of office. And that's all for him. Well, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.